How is it going, football fans? What's going on, y'all? Little Friday night football talk, college football edition. Give folks a few minutes to jump on. No intro video or anything crazy right now. Just having a little bit of fun on a Friday night. Giving folks a minute to join. In the meantime, while folks get up and running, college football playoffs underway. What an event. I know a lot of people have said this, and I've said it all along. It is disappointing to me that the four teams that earned a bye do not get an opportunity to play a home game. You look at what's happening at Notre Dame right now, that place is insane. It is rocking. But it is a bummer, man. I would love to see Boise State at home. I think it's more of an advantage. Teams that win, especially teams that win and earn the bye, should have an opportunity to play at home. But right now, Notre Dame up 17-3. Indiana has been pretty much dominated this whole game, folks. Also, I know I'm starting to talk about it a little bit more. The Palmettos and Pines Pigskin podcast, say that 5 times fast, is officially ramping up, folks. This is part of the reason I'm doing some of this content, college football content, covering the state of North Carolina and South Carolina. Y'all know I have a heavy emphasis on one team in particular in the state of North Carolina, which is the University of North Carolina, and a team in particular in the state of South Carolina, which is the University of South Carolina. But guess what, folks? We're going to cover anything and everything. NC State, Wake Forest, App, ECU, Charlotte, Duke. We got them all. Speaking of Duke football, I got a problem with Duke football right now. I don't know how many people are online on X. I also don't know how many people know that Riley Leonard played at Duke last year, transferred to Notre Dame, transfer portal. The Duke University football account posted a good luck message to Riley Leonard tonight. I'm sorry. With all this chaos in college football with transfer portal and kids leaving and going and posting letters, he made a decision to leave for more money. It's that simple. And to go to a program where he thought he could win more games, make the college football playoff. I would not be posting a message. I'm just saying, that is me. So I don't know who the admin is that runs that channel. But people were roasting them. I saw some people say, like, who? Who's Riley Leonard? Anyways, here's my other, as we're on this topic, talking about Notre Dame football. I posted this earlier. There's a lot of talk about the out of conference play, and I've discussed this. When the statement came out, the AD of Alabama, and they were talking about out of conference play and how you had to reevaluate it. It is a fact, and I think a lot of people took that statement regarding out of conference and thought that they were implying things to this year. Sorry, it was the commissioner of the SEC. I said that wrong, so correct myself there. But statement was made about reevaluating the out of conference schedule. A lot of people said, oh, they're pointing to Alabama because Alabama didn't make the playoffs. That's not the case, folks. It is a genuine overview because you look at Indiana, who's in the playoffs. You look at SMU, who's in the playoffs. And what they're saying is you're going to beat yourselves up as you go through the SEC gauntlet, which is true. So you need to reevaluate. And yesterday on the Kyle Bailey show, WFNZ, Shane Beamer was on there, South Carolina, And he talked about it as well. And he said it is a very valid point. And especially the University of South Carolina. And you could throw Clemson in there too when we talk about this, because they're one of their 4 out of conference games is against a very good program, meaning Clemson and South Carolina. I know South Carolina's had some down years, but overall kind of trending in a better direction. And then this year, it's talking about like a top 15 matchup. Guaranteed now over the next few years to look like that's going to be maybe a top 25 matchup each year, assuming there's no fall off between the programs. So you already have that to worry about. So why go out and schedule a Virginia Tech? Why go out and schedule another Power 4 conference team? Why not go get a softer schedule? Because the room and margin for error is very slim. But speaking of Notre Dame in particular, so everyone is complaining about this team made it, that team made it, they got to their conference championship. Folks, the complaining that you need to do needs to be with Notre Dame, folks. That's who people need to be complaining about, because they don't have a conference. They don't have a conference championship. So you are almost guaranteed every year, as long as they're, I know they've had some bad years, but not terrible, but you're almost guaranteed for them to be in the college football playoff. Just the nature of it. You go back and look at their schedule this year. I know they have ties into the ACC, but Texas A&M, that was a good win. We know about Northern Illinois, the loss at home. Purdue, Miami, Ohio, Louisville, good football team. Stanford, Georgia Tech's a good win. I know Navy was a good win, but then Florida State, Virginia, Army, another one, and then USC. No conference championship to go along with it, though. So I'm just saying complain. The whole entire just state of college football, man, it is a mess. And I just did the first, I guess we'll call it podcast episode for this podcast. It's not going on a podcast platform yet. I'll get that up by end of year. But it'll be up on the YouTube channel, and just talking through some of the latest happenings for North Carolina in the transfer portal. Enough of that. You know what? It's bowl season, folks. And as we talk about it being bowl season, and also with me covering North Carolina and South Carolina, we have a bowl coming up on Monday, about an hour from here. The Myrtle Beach Bowl. And to be honest, I am mad in a way that Coastal Carolina, I mean, it's their bowl, it's their stadium, and they're hosting. That's a bummer. Like, if I'm Coastal, I would want to travel somewhere else, not be at my home stadium. I mean, I'm sure it's nice to be close to home, but at the same time, like, I'd like to go somewhere else. But they're hosting UTSA. So they'll really kick off the first bowl game for teams in North Carolina and South Carolina that I'll be talking about. You got that going on. I also know, and I'm breezing through the schedule right now. See, I have barely paid attention to the bowl season. I mean, it's ridiculous how many teams make a bowl. Almost half of the entire FBS, and you have 5 and 7 teams that are 5 and 7 making it into a bowl game. It's just a freaking mess. Kids opting out, entering the transfer portal. Oklahoma and Navy sounds good. Georgia Tech and Vanderbilt in the Birmingham Bowl. I like that. Texas Tech, Arkansas. Texas A&M, USC. So going back to the state of North Carolina, UConn and North Carolina. Again, Bill Belichick's not going to be coaching. You have Kitchens leading the way. The Wasabi Fenway Bowl up in Boston. which I have to feel like maybe Bill travels because I'm sure Boston would love to see him up there. I'm trying to get to there we go. The Go Bowling Military Bowl. That's a big matchup for the state of North Carolina for bragging rights. ECU and NC State. I'm excited for that one just to see them. And I am pretty sure that NC State and ECU play next year. So this is kind of an early preview. Yeah, they play at Carter Finley Stadium. First game of the season. August 30th kickoff. Dig it. So I'm excited about that one. I've also seen just a lot of trash talk going on between the schools. We wrap up, I think no, you got two more with the state of North Carolina and South Carolina. The Cheez-It, and we'll talk playoffs in a second. Cheez-It Citrus Bowl, which I've already posted a video of the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl with South Carolina and Illinois. Both teams trying to get to 10 wins. Shane Beamer, again, talked about this on the Kyle Bailey show yesterday. They're motivated. I'm excited for them. I hope they do get to 10 wins. There's a lot of momentum building up in that program. And you look into next year, and I know it's preseason, it's hype, it's whatever. South Carolina's kind of had that, not this past year, but the year before, had some really good wins over Tennessee and Clemson. And then the next year, things kind of fell apart. So I really look forward to them hopefully being able to maintain and sustain what they have built. It's going to be tough. Again, they start next year against Virginia Tech in Atlanta, neutral site. But last bowl game, and again, talk about Clemson in a second, but the last bowl game, Duke and Ole Miss. Everbank Stadium, the Tax Slayer Gator Bowl. Should be a pretty good bowl. And then, you know what? As we're talking about local bowl games, of course, the Duke's Mayo Bowl between Minnesota and Virginia Tech at Bank of America Stadium. All right, let us pull up, or I'll pull up my initial college football playoff bracket and let you guys destroy it. And as it sits right now, Notre Dame 17, Indiana 3. Notre Dame has the ball. Looks like they're slowly moving the ball down the field. Hasn't really been much of a game, to be honest. Close in the beginning. Notre Dame's just been too much. Way too much. Let's try to pull this up. So this was to be honest, I have, I think I've created about 3 general predictions. And I honestly don't remember them between when I've created them. I did a first round prediction video, so that's out there. I did our family college football pick'em. And then this version, I think that's it. Although I do think I posted a version of the first round today on, might have been Facebook. I don't know. Doesn't matter. This is the one that we'll roll with. Of course, we also have the family version where everything matters. It's bragging rights, all that fun stuff. But Clemson and Texas. You know, it's funny, in the video that I did where I predicted this, I did pick Clemson to upset Texas. I talked myself into Clemson pulling an upset. And the only way I got into doing that was thinking about Quinn Ewers and him potentially just not finding it, having a bad game, and Clemson having a ton of experience. Now, I know this group of guys in particular, they don't have a ton, but you do have Dabo Swinney leading the way. And I think him knowing how this works, and again, I know, he hasn't traveled to another school. It's always been neutral site or a version of neutral site. Because we know some of these neutral sites are not really neutral where they're located, but I look at his experience to potentially get the upset. But for the purposes of this, I do have Texas taking down Clemson. I know a lot of people like Texas to potentially win it all and to go on a run. I I I'm kind of glazing over Arizona State. I think a lot of people are doing the same thing. I don't think a lot of people are giving Arizona State credit. They look at them as a 4 seed, and I can't remember what their actual ranking is. They might be the number 12 team, number 12-ish. Remember, this seeding is weird. Your ranking and your seeding are not the same thing. But I look at Arizona State as I think Arizona State would have a better chance if this was a home game for them. But Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, so that's going to be in Atlanta. Tennessee and Ohio State. This is the one that I keep going back and forth on. And a lot of people are using the storyline with Ryan Day not being Michigan, fans being mad, fans potentially booing. I understand being as a Panthers fan, I understand being pissed and watching bad football and being upset with the team. But I don't know that I would buy into it being as negative as people think. I'm not saying he's not on the hot seat, and I'm not saying if he loses, he gets fired. But I think it would be weird for me to imagine that Ohio State hosting a college football playoff game is going to come out pissed off and booing their own coach and team. I get where they are, and they could go on all their discords and chats and online groups and talk all about Ryan Day. But for the purposes of this playoff game and wanting to have home field advantage, I mean, there's all this talk too about Tennessee traveling well. I'm not saying they aren't going to travel well, but the Tennessee's going to take over the stadium. I don't know that I'm buying into that either. I'm sure there'll be a decent crowd, but I don't know. But in this game, I'm picking Ohio State, but I do think Tennessee has a legitimate chance to win this game. But that then sets up Ohio State versus Oregon. And I mean, it's hard to predict this one. We saw a really competitive game at Oregon earlier this year. Ohio State kind of fumbled that one away. So you look at Oregon and Ohio State, I know that's going to be a tough matchup. I still think Oregon's the better team. Clearly, a team I picked to win the whole dang thing, but we'll see when we get there. Then we have SMU in Penn State, and here I go. Y'all know it. Put on the ACC hat, at least for SMU, and I'm pulling for SMU to win this. I feel like they're kind of the Indiana to the Notre Dame in this situation. I don't know that they have a real shot. You look, I know Penn State, kind of looking at this on the other side, and in Franklin, they can't win a big game to save their life. Like if the pressure's on, they can't win. This may be different. And I think they got a decent chance this time. Playing at home, it feels like everything should be in their favor. It's a noon kickoff. I wish it would have been a night kickoff. The other thing, man, look at the TV schedule. TNT and Max, HBO Max. It's wild just how this stuff has expanded. But SMU, I think SMU, really good story, great season, good job first year in the ACC. I don't know if SMU has enough because we saw them in Charlotte, and that was almost a home game for Clemson, pretty close to it. Clemson knew how to prepare. I think Penn State, coming out of the Big Ten Conference Championship, played well against Oregon. Of course, they didn't get the job done, but I think they're going to be better. And I think that environment, this is when we talk about college football environments. SMU's stadium is like 35,000 people, and it is a different level. going well. But these college football environments, they're just different. And that's part of the reason I like college football so much more than the NFL. I look at Penn State's environment. I don't even know, what do they have, 100,000, 90,000? They've got a ginormous crowd that's going to be there. And that's a big jump. It is a big jump for this school, this team. I mean, you think about them coming out of the American, joining the ACC, winning it, and losing in the conference championship. So it took them a while to get settled in. It was almost like the game was just a little too big for them in the ACC championship. But I'd love to see them pull it out. I don't think it's going to happen. So I do have Penn State. That leads us to a really nice matchup with Boise State. I feel like the path to the playoffs, easiest path would be whoever goes through Boise State and whoever goes through Arizona State, just the way the bracket falls. But hey, happy to be surprised and shocked with how this thing goes. Again, looking at Penn State, Boise State, if that is the matchup, whoever it is, it's another one where, man, you're like, if this game had been on Boise State's campus, you would feel pretty good about Boise State potentially winning this game. But it is going to be neutral site. Boise State's a really good football team. You think about their only loss to Oregon, how close they played them. I think they will be more competitive than people think. Like, if I was to stack these up, I think Boise State probably over an Arizona State is the best chance at an upset in the second round or the quarterfinals. And lastly, we got Indiana and Notre Dame, which is live. Speaking of live, it is 20-3 with 4:21 to go in the third quarter. At least that's the update that I have right now. Seems like Notre Dame's going to take this one pretty easily. And it'll set up a really big matchup in the Sugar Bowl against Georgia. Now, Georgia, it's been reported that Beck is out. And so that is the only reason I did not pick Georgia to win this game. I think if Georgia had Beck, there's a good chance that they could win the whole thing. But if Beck is out and Beck cannot play and he officially gets ruled out, it's hard for me to pick Georgia to win this game. I know what they did in the SEC championship, but I also look at what they did the final game of the season against Georgia Tech. And for me, I don't know. I don't know if Georgia will have enough. Now, that said, they're a really good football team all around. And when you talk about experience and coaching and someone who's been there and done that, that's Kirby Smart. And so, like, if I'm putting my money on any coach in this entire playoff to have his team ready, it's going to be Kirby Smart. Like, Kirby Smart knows how to coach. He knows how to prepare. So I would not put it past him. So again, I picked Notre Dame. I do think Georgia, if they can figure out whatever's going on with the quarterback, they got enough time to prepare. There's a good chance they can pull this off. Looking ahead, though, to what I predicted, though, I have Texas and Oregon. Again, just leaning into Oregon for me. I think Oregon's the better team this year. It sounds dumb, but I'm worried about them not lost a game, which it sounds so stupid. And you hear teams talk about that in the NFL sometimes, like eventually, hey, it's good. It's good for us to finally lose. And not that anyone wants to lose, but you think about the run from the Carolina Panthers years ago when they went on that streak. I think about this for Oregon. It's like, should they have, not that you want them to lose, though. It's difficult, man, because you now look at having to win 1, 2, 3 games for them in this updated format. So we'll see. But I do think Oregon, I like them. Now, the wild card in all this is Arch Manning. Like, if Arch Manning gets in either against Arizona State, Clemson, or he's the quarterback moving forward, because I do think he's the better quarterback, or, Ewers just kind of figures it out. I do think Texas, like, if we're stacking odds, I feel like the winner of this is going to come out of, if it's Texas and Oregon, out of this game. And again, I still pick Oregon. Penn State and Notre Dame in the bracket that I have. That one's tough. I feel like Penn State, you would consider this a successful year if they were to win 2 playoff games, and it's some to win games that they previously just don't win. So I think it'll be a good year. I don't know, as much as I am put my money and bet, but as much as I put like my thought on Notre Dame winning this thing, I'm as skeptical of Notre Dame as I am of Penn State. I feel like the bottom half of the bracket, if I played this safe, I should have picked Georgia the entire way because, like we said, the experience. It's like we have not seen Notre Dame be able to do this. We have not seen Penn State be able to do this, win the big games, move forward. So I guess that's why the bracket that I made, we rolled with Oregon the whole way and knocking off Notre Dame as we got there, or as they got there. So fun times, man. It should be good. I'm excited for tomorrow. Let me stop sharing that. Hop back over. I'm excited for the matchup tomorrow. Warhawk55 says, hoping Texas pulls it off. Let me fix this too. There we go. He said Clemson gets whooped. Gamecock should be there instead. That's the thing too. So if y'all had not had a chance to go back and listen to the Kyle Bailey Club show, go and listen to that. There's a really good interview, like I said, with Shane Beamer. And honestly, folks, man, it had to be yesterday. My days run together. It wasn't today. But he did acknowledge that. They talked about, Beamer went directly on air talking about the playoff committee's inconsistencies, the fact that the body of work that South Carolina had was done. There was no way to evaluate. And they beat the ACC champion who's in the playoffs. I don't know. I don't think it's going to take long before we see expansion. I think it's 2026 is when things are up for renewal or when you can change it. I don't think it'll take long at all for them to reevaluate, expand. It's tough too, man, because having these 9-win seasons on the borderline of 10, so close, man. So freaking close. And heck, if they're going to expand, and I know it's the NCAA that runs March Madness, but they're talking about expanding it up to 72 to 76 teams at this point. And okay, well, we got to figure something out for college football. I will say I'm glad it is where it is right now. The other thing that's driving me crazy with college football in particular, people trying to compare Carson Beck being out for Georgia and Florida State last year. It's not the same thing at all. Sure, now I would gladly take a debate if this had been a 14 playoff. Certainly you would want to consider if Georgia would have been one of the 4 best, but I even think then they probably still get in. But it's not. It's expanded. It's 12 teams in this thing now. So to me, it's just not the same conversation at all. But I am looking forward to the matchups tomorrow. As Notre Dame looks like they're slowly but surely going to put this thing away. Still 20-3 in the third. There's actually a lot of football tomorrow. I am a college football guy, as you can tell. Let's go back and look at the slate. I know there's NFL action. So SMU, Penn State, we talked about 12 o'clock. South Dakota State, if you're into the FCS playoffs, South Dakota State, North Dakota State in the semifinals of FCS, then South Dakota and Montana State. And the other, you have Clemson, Texas, and Tennessee, Ohio State. Texas is a 13-point favorite right now. That's the wild thing about all these games, the point spreads, how much some of these teams are favored over the other. So you have college football, and then if you are a fan of the NFL, you got some pretty good matchups tomorrow as well. Texans and Chiefs, 1 o'clock on NBC and Peacock, and then at 4:30, Pittsburgh and the Baltimore Ravens. And no one will be all over that. And Sunday, guess what? For me, I don't get to watch the Panthers. They are not in market. They are not in the Wilmington, North Carolina market, which I'm below in Brunswick, but we're surrounding that area. We have the Philadelphia Eagles and Washington Commanders. So there you go. Fun times. Oregon is going to be hard to beat. I agree with that. And Ernie said South Carolina beat both Indiana. I believe it, man. I'm with you, man. I think the argument, they are one of the 12 best teams in the country right now, this second. It just stinks. So you got to go back and you got to do it next year. And I hope that Beamer can figure it out. It is going to be difficult. We talked about Virginia Tech. You'll have Clemson on the schedule as well. It's going to be a lot for them to overcome. And the SEC schedule is exactly the same. So they still have to go through Alabama, LSU, Texas A&M, Oklahoma, Ole Miss. That's a gauntlet. And the only thing that's changed is the home and away is flipped. So they'll have to travel. Oh, it's tough, man. It's going to be a tough schedule. And then that's still with what your Vanderbilt and Kentucky's, who are getting better. I think Kentucky's kind of falling off, but Vanderbilt at least getting better. And Diego Pavier is back for what his 100th season. Not that many, but he's back for like 5 or 6, whatever it is now. College football is insane. I don't even know why we call it college football. Like, I mean, it is college, but the college aspect of it is long gone. Nowhere near it. Anyways, folks, that's probably going to do it for me tonight. I appreciate y'all tuning in. I got to go cut some video up and get it out there. But as always, it's Carolina Dad. Y'all have a